High Counselor Zindar's crystalline form trembled as the emergency alert coursed through the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. The massive amphitheater, usually a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, now hummed with an undercurrent of fear. Representatives from over 400 spacefaring civilizations packed the chamber, their diverse forms creating a living mosaic of evolution across 1,000 worlds. Verification confirmed, announced first observer Ralcon, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with anxiety. The anomalies we detected in Sector 2814 were not natural phenomena. They were artificial quantum tunnels, created by. He paused, his translator struggling to convey his disbelief, a pre-contact species. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, the high-pitched whistles of the Erythai, the deep resonant hums of the quantum collective, and the electromagnetic pulses of the silicon-based lithoids. High Counselor Zindar raised all 6 of his appendages, calling for order. "Show us," he commanded, his crystalline voice cutting through the chaos. The central hologram activated, displaying a small vessel of clearly primitive design. The assembled representatives watched in horror as the ship approached what appeared to be empty space. Suddenly, a point of absolute darkness, no larger than a grain of sand, appeared before the vessel. The ship accelerated toward it, and in a flash that momentarily outshone the nearby stars, both disappeared. "Impossible," whispered Technical Director Ven Shah, her gaseous form condensing with shock. "They're using artificial microsingularities as a propulsion method. The energy requirements alone are being met through antimatter reactors," Ralcon interrupted. "They've somehow achieved stable antimatter production on an industrial scale. This species, these humans, they're literally tearing holes in the fabric of spacetime to travel faster than light." The chamber fell silent, a rarity in its 1,000-year history. Every being present understood the implications. The creation of artificial black holes had been theoretically possible for millennia, but no civilization had dared to attempt it. The risks of catastrophic failure were too high, the consequences too severe. "Their success rate?" Zindar asked, dreading the answer. 94%, Ralcon responded. "They consider this acceptable." "And the 6%, asked a representative from the Hive Concordat. "They refer to them as learning opportunities," Ralcon said, his bioluminescence flickering with what might have been admiration. "When a tunnel collapses prematurely, they analyze the failure and adjust their calculations. They're not just using this technology, they're refining it." The hologram shifted to show a human colony ship, larger than their first vessels, emerging from another quantum tunnel. Its hull glowed with Hawking radiation, but otherwise, it appeared intact. Behind it, dozens of smaller ships followed, like metal seeds being scattered across the galaxy. "They've established 17 extrasolar colonies in the past solar revolution of their world," Ralcon continued. "They're expanding at a rate that defies all our models of species development. And they're doing it all without any knowledge of galactic civilization or our safety protocols." High Counselor Zindar's crystalline form dimmed as he processed the implications. "We face an unprecedented situation. A species that should be barely achieving conventional spaceflight has instead mastered one of the most dangerous forms of propulsion theoretically possible. They're colonizing systems we deemed unreachable without generation ships, and they're doing it with technology we specifically outlawed due to its catastrophic potential." Technical Director Ven Shah expanded thoughtfully. Perhaps we should study their method. If they've found a way to stabilize artificial singularities." "Study?" The Hive Concordat's representative vibrated with alarm. "They're accepting a 6% failure rate. Each failure could potentially tear a permanent hole in spacetime. And yet none have," Ralcon noted. "Their calculations, while reckless by our standards, are surprisingly precise. They're not just throwing themselves at the impossible, they're methodically conquering it." Zindar raised himself to his full height, his crystalline form catching the light in a way that commanded attention. "We must make contact." This species cannot be allowed to continue blindly expanding without understanding the greater context of galactic civilization. But more importantly, he paused, his next words carrying the weight of history, we must understand how they achieved what we thought impossible. Their methods are dangerous, yes, but their success challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of spacetime itself. As the Council debated their next steps, the hologram continued to play, showing more human ships emerging from their artificial quantum tunnels. Each successful jump was a defiance of established physics, each colony a testament to their determination. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity's reckless brilliance would be the catalyst. In the privacy of his chambers later, High Counselor Zindar reviewed the footage again. The human ships danced on the edge of oblivion itself, their crews seemingly unafraid of the void they were punching holes through. Their species had looked into the abyss of space-time and, instead of retreating in terror, had found a way to use it as a highway. For the first time in his 300-year tenure as High Counselor, Zindar felt something he hadn't expected, hope, tinged with fear. The galaxy was about to enter a new age, and humanity's arrival would be its herald. Dr. Kaya Patel stood before the Galactic Council's scientific assembly, her dark eyes glinting with barely concealed amusement as she watched the varied alien forms shift uncomfortably in their seats. The holographic displays behind her showed the intricate schematics of humanity's first successful FTL drive, nicknamed Prometheus Torch. "You're telling us," began senior theorist Nemtor, his energy form fluctuating with disbelief, "that you developed this technology because you were running out of time?" "Precisely," Kaya replied, bringing up historical footage of Earth's environmental crisis. "When faced with extinction, innovation becomes necessity rather than luxury. We had decades, not centuries, to solve the problem of interstellar travel." The assembled aliens watched as images of rising seas, devastating storms, and resource wars flashed across the screen. Many shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the pattern from their own histories. But none had responded quite like humanity. Traditional FTL theories suggested we needed the energy output of a small sun to bend space, Kaya continued. We didn't have that kind of time or resources. So instead of trying to bend space, she paused, allowing herself a small smile, we decided to punch through it. The holographic display shifted to show the first successful test vessel, the HSV Icarus. It was tiny compared to the massive ships favored by council races, barely larger than an ancient seafaring vessel. We discovered that by creating a precisely calibrated microsingularity and feeding it a controlled stream of exotic matter, we could tear a temporary hole in spacetime itself. "Madness," whispered a crystalline being from the third row. "The energy requirements alone were solved through desperation-driven innovation," Kaya interrupted. "When your species faces extinction, you'd be amazed how quickly funding appears for antimatter production facilities." She brought up new diagrams showing the revolutionary containment systems humanity had developed. "The breakthrough came when we stopped fighting chaos and started working with it." The assembly erupted in a flurry of translated questions and exclamations. Kaya waited patiently, her calm demeanor a sharp contrast to their agitation. Chief Scientist Yulovan, a being composed of pure plasma contained within a complex mechanical shell, raised an appendage for silence. "Dr. Patel," he began, his translated voice carrying a note of fascination, "your species deliberately creates artificial black holes, in close proximity to inhabited worlds, as a means of transportation. The first successful test was actually conducted in Earth orbit," Kaya confirmed, causing several assembly members to emit various signs of distress. "We needed our planet's gravitational field to help stabilize the initial quantum framework." The room fell silent, each being processing the implications of such reckless brilliance. The holographic display showed the test footage, the Icarus approaching what appeared to be empty space, the formation of the microsingularity, and the ship's dramatic disappearance in a flash of Hawking radiation. "The 6% failure rate you're all so concerned about," Kaya continued, "those aren't catastrophic failures. They're simply instances where the tunnel collapsed prematurely, forcing the ship to drop out of FTL early. Our vessels are designed to survive even a worst-case scenario. But the risks began as silicon-based being are calculated and accepted, Kaya finished. Humanity has a long history of accepting calculated risks to achieve the impossible. The first ocean voyages, the first powered flight, the first space launches, all had failure rates far higher than 6%. We learn, we adapt, and we move forward. She brought up new footage showing the latest generation of human FTL ships. They were sleek, efficient, and bristling with safety systems. We've already improved the success rate to 97%, and we're working on ways to make the tunnel stable enough for larger vessels. We're not just surviving these journeys, we're mastering them. Chief Scientist Yulovan's containment shell hummed thoughtfully. Your species has achieved something remarkable, if terrifying. But surely you understand our concern. You're literally tearing holes in the fabric of reality. Temporary holes, Kaya corrected. Think of it like diving into water. For a moment, you break the surface tension, but it reforms behind you. We're not destroying space-time, we're swimming through it. The assembly broke into heated discussion, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses. Kaya waited, knowing that their entire understanding of physics was being challenged. Finally, Yulovan addressed her again. Dr. Patel, would humanity be willing to share this technology with the Council? That's why I'm here, Kaya replied. But there's something you need to understand first. This isn't just technology, it's a philosophy. You need to be willing to accept that the impossible is merely the improbable waiting to be solved. Are you ready for that? As the assembly debated, Kaya watched the reactions ripple through the crowd. Fear, excitement, disbelief, and curiosity played across alien features evolved on 1,000 different worlds. They were beginning to understand that humanity hadn't just developed a new form of space travel, they'd brought a revolution to the galaxy. And this was only the beginning. The private chambers of the Galactic Council's inner circle hummed with tension. 9 of the most powerful beings in known space gathered around a table crafted from quantum crystal, each processing the implications of humanity's revolutionary technology. Ambassador Rilo of the Stellar Concordat broke the silence first, his photonic form flickering with agitation. We cannot ignore 10 millennia of established safety protocols. These humans treat the fundamental forces of the universe like toys. Toys that work, countered Grand Minister Thalnine, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of excitement. While we spent millennia theorizing about quantum tunneling, they simply did it. And now my people want the same capability. High Counselor Zindar's form dimmed thoughtfully. The latest reports are even more concerning. They've begun adapting the technology for civilian use. Their merchant vessels are already establishing trade routes that our ships can't match. The holographic display at the center of the table showed the growing network of human quantum tunnels. Like a spiderweb of impossibilities, they connected systems that the Council had long considered too distant for practical trade. The mercantile guilds are in chaos, reported Trade Director Vex Nor, her gaseous form swirling with anxiety. Human goods are appearing in markets across 3 sectors. They're offering fresh agricultural products from Earth to worlds that have never tasted naturally grown food. The economic implications alone are secondary to the security concerns, interrupted Security Commander Jorlak, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming. What happens when they start selling this technology? When other species begin creating their own quantum tunnels without proper oversight? They already are, Thalnine noted. 3 minor species have formally requested human assistance in developing their own FTL programs. They're bypassing Council authority completely. The room erupted in debate. For millennia, the Council had maintained order through technological superiority and careful regulation of FTL travel. Humanity's arrival had shattered that paradigm. Perhaps, began Science Director Yulovan, his containment shell pulsing with measured thought, we should consider that our caution has become excessive. The humans have demonstrated that controlled quantum tunneling is possible. Their success challenges our most basic assumptions about physics. Their success could tear reality apart. Jorlak countered. Every tunnel they create weakens the fabric of space-time. Actually, Yulovan's shell hummed, our latest studies suggest the opposite. The human method appears to be self-healing. Each tunnel collapse releases precisely calculated energy that reinforces local space-time stability. It's elegant, in a terrifyingly innovative way. The display shifted to show a human colony ship emerging from a quantum tunnel. Behind it, sensors recorded the space-time fabric knitting itself back together, stronger than before. The humans hadn't just found a way through the universe's walls, they'd discovered how to repair them in passage. The public is already taking sides, noted Information Minister Lenera, her neural network interfacing directly with the Council's data streams. Several major species are calling for immediate adoption of human FTL technology. Others want us to quarantine Earth and all human colonies. Quarantine? Thalnina's crystalline form flashed with alarm. That would be seen as an act of war. And need I remind you that their ships can appear anywhere in space with minimal warning? High Counselor Zindar raised all 6 appendages for silence. We face a pivotal moment in galactic history. Humanity has forced us to confront our own limitations, not just technological, but philosophical. They've shown us that our understanding of physics was bounded not by what was possible, but by what we were willing to try. The display shifted again, showing human ships of all sizes using quantum tunnels for everything from colonial expansion to emergency rescue operations. Their success rate had climbed to 98%, and they showed no signs of slowing their advancement. I propose a new approach, Zindar continued. Instead of trying to contain humanity, we adapt to their presence. We establish a joint research initiative, our experience and resources combined with their innovative spirit. And if they refuse? Jorlak asked. They won't, Lenera interjected, her neural network pulsing. Human communication intercepts show they're as curious about us as we are about them. They want to learn, to trade, to explore. They're not conquerors, they're pioneers. Pioneers who punch holes in space-time, Rilo muttered. Exactly, Zindar's crystal form brightened. They've shown us that the impossible is merely the improbable waiting to be solved. Perhaps it's time we learn from them. As the inner circle debated, the display continued to show human ships crossing vast distances in moments, colonies flourishing on worlds once thought unreachable, and trade flowing along paths that defied conventional spacetime. The galaxy was transforming, and every species would need to decide whether to embrace the change or be left behind. In the depths of space, another quantum tunnel bloomed like a dark flower, a human ship sailed through the impossible, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, wondering what these remarkable beings would do next. The emergency alert echoed through the Galactic Council's Crisis Response Center. The holographic display showed the HSS Hyperion, one of humanity's largest colony ships, as it prepared to enter a quantum tunnel. Over 15,000 colonists were aboard, bound for the newly established settlement in the Deneb sector. First Commander Runa Patel, no relation to Dr. Kaya Patel, stood on the bridge of the Hyperion, her dark eyes fixed on the forming singularity ahead. Something felt wrong. The quantum readings were oscillating outside normal parameters. Engineering, she called, status report. The containment field is showing microfluctuations, Chief Engineer Theo Rodriguez responded, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. The tunnel's quantum framework isn't stabilizing properly. In the Crisis Response Center, alien observers watched with growing horror as the readings spiraled toward critical levels. They must abort, Technical Director Ven Shaw whispered, her gaseous form condensing with anxiety. The tunnel will collapse with them inside it. But the Hyperion didn't retreat. Instead, multiple news signals began broadcasting from the massive ship. Initiating Phoenix Protocol, Runa announced, her voice calm despite the situation. All hands to emergency stations. Begin passenger transfer to survival pods. The alien observers watched in fascination as the colony ship's outer hull began to shift. Panels retracted, revealing hundreds of smaller vessels nestled within the main structure. The Hyperion wasn't just a ship, it was a carrier designed to split apart at a moment's notice. Humanity's madness knows no bounds, muttered a crystalline being. They built their ships expecting catastrophic failure. No, corrected High Counselor Zindar, who had arrived moments after the alert. They built their ships expecting to survive catastrophic failure. There's a difference. On the Hyperion's bridge, Runa coordinated the evacuation with practiced precision. The ship's AI distributed passengers and crew among the survival pods based on real-time quantum readings. Each pod was a fully functional spacecraft, capable of generating its own microsingularities for FTL travel. Tunnel collapse in 60 seconds, Theo reported. Primary containment field failing. Begin pod detachment sequence, Runa ordered. Launch pattern Delta. The Hyperion structure began to separate, each section breaking away in a carefully choreographed dance. The survival pods launched in waves, their own quantum drive spinning up. The original singularity ahead of them pulsed ominously, its event horizon fluctuating wildly. In the crisis center, alarms blared as the tunnel's instability reached critical levels. They'll never get all the pods clear in time, Venshaw predicted. But she had underestimated human preparation. Phoenix protocol completed, Theo announced. All pods launched. Bridge crew ready for emergency jump. The command pod, containing the bridge crew and key engineering personnel, was the last to detach. The Hyperion's main hull, now empty of life, remained behind as a massive shield between the failing tunnel and the retreating pods. Jump coordinates locked, Runa confirmed. All pods, execute emergency quantum tunneling on my mark. Hundreds of microsingularities winked into existence around the Hyperion's remains. Each pod generated its own quantum tunnel, their calculations adjusted to account for the chaotic energy being released by the failing main tunnel. The alien observers watched in amazement as pod after pod vanished into their individual tunnels, each one perfectly calculated to emerge at the same rally point. The coordination required was staggering. When the main tunnel finally collapsed, it released a wave of energy that would have annihilated any conventional vessel. Instead, it struck the empty hull of the Hyperion, which had been specifically designed to absorb and redirect such forces. Impossible, whispered one of the alien scientists. The energy readings, they used the collapse itself to help power their emergency jumps. Hours later, at the designated rally point, pods emerged from quantum tunnels in precise sequence. Of the 15,327 colonists aboard the Hyperion, 15,327 survived. The first message broadcast from the command pod wasn't a distress call. It was a data packet containing everything they had learned from the tunnel collapse, already formatted for immediate analysis. In the crisis center, High Counselor Zindar's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been respect. Do you understand now? He asked his fellow council members. They didn't just plan for failure, they turned potential catastrophe into an opportunity to learn. But the ship, began one of the observers, was designed to be sacrificed if necessary, Zindar finished. They built redundancy into redundancy, created survival systems that others would consider excessive. And because of that preparation, what should have been a tragedy became merely an inconvenience. The holographic display showed the pods reorganizing themselves into a temporary flotilla. They would continue their journey to Deneb, delayed but undefeated. Already, the data from their experience was being transmitted to every human vessel and shipyard, ensuring that the next generation of ships would be even better prepared. This, Zindar declared, is why humanity succeeds where others would fail. They don't just face the impossible, they plan for it, prepare for it, and learn from it. The Phoenix Protocol isn't just an emergency response system. It's a testament to their determination to survive and thrive, no matter what the universe throws at them. In space, the flotilla of pods began generating new quantum tunnels, their crews and passengers ready to continue their journey. They had looked into the abyss, survived it, and emerged stronger. It was, in many ways, the most human thing they could have done. 5 years after the Hyperion incident, the Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had changed. Human delegates now sat among the representatives of 1,000 worlds, their presence a symbol of how dramatically the galaxy had transformed. High Counselor Zindar stood before the assembly, his crystalline form gleaming under the chamber's lights. "Today marks a historic moment," he announced. "The Joint Quantum Initiative has achieved what many thought impossible, a standardized FTL system combining human innovation with Council safety protocols." The central hologram displayed the new ship design. It bore the hallmarks of both human and alien engineering, sleek and compact like human vessels, but with the redundant safety systems favored by Council races. More importantly, it represented a fundamental shift in how the galaxy approached technological advancement. The success rate now stands at 99.8%, reported Technical Director Jana Patel, daughter of the legendary Dr. Kaya Patel. Her presence on the Council's technical board was itself a testament to how far things had changed. More importantly, we've proven that quantum tunneling actually strengthens local space-time fabric when properly executed. The chamber erupted in approving sounds from dozens of species. Even the traditionally conservative Stellar Concordat had embraced the new paradigm after seeing the economic and social benefits of reliable faster-than-light travel. "Our trading networks now span 3 times the volume of space we could reach just 5 years ago," announced Trade Director Vex Nor. "Species that once went centuries without contact now exchange goods and ideas daily. We're seeing cultural and technological exchange at unprecedented levels." The hologram shifted to show the network of quantum tunnels that now connected the galaxy. What had begun as desperate human innovation had evolved into a transportation revolution. Ships of all species now sailed through temporary holes in spacetime, their journeys protected by both human ingenuity and Council wisdom. "But perhaps most significantly," Zindar continued, "we've learned to question our assumptions. The arrival of humanity forced us to confront our own limitations, not just technological, but philosophical. We had become so focused on avoiding failure that we had forgotten how to innovate. In the years since first contact, humanity had continued to push boundaries, but now they did so with the collected wisdom of galactic civilization to guide them. The Phoenix Protocol had become standard across all spacefaring vessels, regardless of origin. Ships were built not just to avoid disaster, but to survive and learn from it. "We stand at the dawn of a new era," Zindar declared. "One where the combined strengths of all our species drive us forward. Humanity taught us to reach for the impossible. We taught them the value of accumulated wisdom. Together, we're achieving what neither of us could have done alone." The hologram showed scenes from across known space, human colonies thriving on worlds once thought uninhabitable, alien species adopting and improving upon human technologies, joint research projects pushing the boundaries of known physics. But perhaps most telling were the schools, where young beings of all species learned that the impossible was merely the improbable waiting to be solved. "The question before us now," Zindar continued, "is not whether we should continue this path of innovation, but how far we dare to go. Humanity's quantum tunneling technology was just the beginning. Already, our joint research teams are exploring concepts that would have been dismissed as fantasy a decade ago." The chamber filled with excited discussion as the hologram displayed some of these new projects, experiments in dimensional physics, studies of consciousness transfer, even early work on time dilation control. Each one represented a fusion of human audacity and Council expertise. Jana Patel stepped forward, her presence commanding attention just as her mother's had years before. "We've learned that the universe is not bound by our preconceptions of what's possible. Every limitation we've encountered has been self-imposed. When we dare to challenge those limitations, when we combine human determination with council wisdom, we find that the universe is far more flexible than we imagined. As if to emphasize her point, a quantum tunnel bloomed outside the council station's windows. A ship of new design emerged, sleek, powerful, and bearing the symbols of both human and council authority. It represented everything they had achieved together, and everything they might yet accomplish. This, Zindar concluded, is our new dawn. Not human, not council, but something greater than either. We have learned from each other, grown together, and in doing so, we've discovered that the true power of the universe lies not in the technology we create, but in our willingness to imagine, to dare, and to transform our dreams into reality. The assembly rose in unanimous approval, their various forms creating a living testament to the diversity and unity they had achieved. In the space above them, more ships emerged from quantum tunnels, each one carrying beings who no longer saw the impossible as a barrier, but as an invitation to grow, to learn, and to evolve. The galaxy had changed forever, and it was all because humanity had dared to punch holes in the universe, and the council had dared to believe they might be right.